Okay, so again, this is primarily aimed at junior faculty, but certainly is applicable to fellows, residents, anybody who's planning an academic career. My conflicts have not changed in the last half hour. So when you're choosing projects, when you have options, remember, your time and your energy, your effort, are your currency. It's just like money. You spend it to get something. Okay? Your career and personal benefits are what you buy with that currency. So when you're buying something and getting something, what are we all looking for? The best value, the biggest return on the investment. You need to start with a thorough career development plan with goals and objectives to use as a framework. You can't say that this choice or that choice is going to be better in getting you toward a goal if you have not defined what that goal is and what the path to that goal is. And again, this will be presented in tomorrow's workshop. And finally, in putting it all together, what is this approach? It's looking at a return on investment. So everybody should know this definition, very simple. So the most benefit, the lowest cost gives you the best value, and that's what you're looking for in comparing projects. So how do you assess costs? Well, an easy one is how many hours you're going to actually spend doing this. Sometimes you can get a reasonable idea, sometimes you don't know. You'll have to seek more information, talk to some other folks who might have more experience in the area. Find out about the timeline of the project. Is this going to be something you'll be doing for 3 months, 6 months, or is it one of those things like an IRB, which once you get on, you have to be carried out in a coffin? Are there specific things that have to be done at specific times? Knowing the timelines in advance and also how much you're committing to. Are you committing to do this till the project is done? Are you committing to do it for a year, for a 3-year term, whatever? Will certainly affect the total cost it gives you. Time flexibility. A lot of people don't think about this. So if one project you have an option to take has a weekly meeting every Tuesday at 2 o'clock, and just so happens that you have clinic on Tuesday afternoons at 2 o'clock. Okay? That is going to have a huge cost to you. You're either going to have to miss the meetings, you're going to have to reschedule your clinics. You will have to put out a lot of effort and energy to be able to meet those requirements. On the other hand, even if the total time you put it in the same, but the same committee has one conference call quarterly, which is done at 4:30 in the afternoon, then that time and the rest of the time, the other work you'll be doing is time flexible. That is a much greater value to you. The total cost will be less. There'll be less disruption to your routine on doing all the other things you need to do. Is the schedule predictable? This is really important. We're all busy. We all have, I don't know about you, but a lot of times there are no hours open every day that you could potentially squeeze something in. And more predictability is better. More predictability is lower cost because you're not running the risk of having to make emergent type decisions, canceling patients, moving them, canceling a lecture, whatever, if you know in advance. I'm a huge fan of planning. What other simultaneous activities do you have going on at this same period of time? So let's say it is a 6-month project. You have to have a product done. Let's say it is like a root cause analysis or something where there was a safety issue and now there has to be a final decision over this period of time. What else are you doing during that 6 months? If you're doing 2 months on service and the rest of the times you just have a couple of clinics and a lot of discretionary time, that might be a good time. If you've got 4 or 5 months on clinic during that 6 months, this cost to you is going to be much higher. You're clearly going to have to get somebody to help cover sometimes. You're going to be doing a lot more work at night than during the day. Much higher cost if you have other things going on that are already consuming most of your discretionary time. Who are your coworkers for the project? Now, for local institutions, you can usually find out from your peers. You might say, oh, this is a great guy chairing your committee. He takes his share of the work. He's always make sure everything's equitable. Or they might say, don't go work for her. She dumps everything on the other people and takes all the credit. She creates conflict, whatever. When you're looking at national things outside your institution, professional societies, etc., regional meetings like this, there are some people around in academic medicines who have excellent reputations for people you want to work for because you'll learn a lot just from their leadership. And there are others that also have more negative reputations that will make the cost higher. Also, take yourself into account. Have you done anything like this before, or do you have to incorporate a learning curve? Okay. If you have, let's say you were asked to write a chapter for a board review product for a professional society. Well, you've studied for boards, you've taken boards. Have you ever written something for board reviews? And if you've not, then there is going to be a learning curve there. Some of these learning curves can be very, very steep. Others are less steep, but still more time and effort than just doing the work. So that it's all going to add to the cost. What about the supporting resources? Do you have within your department, your division, do you have the secretarial support, library resources, statistics, computer applications, etc., to be able to get this done? And if not, are they going to be provided to you by who's ever running this project? And don't forget lost income. Almost everybody who's clinically active now has at least some of their salary determined by either their work RVUs or their clinical collections or some variant thereof. You're not generating clinical dollars when you're working on one of these projects. Okay? So acknowledging that that is going to be part of the cost, it's got to work its way into the equation somewhere. Now, rarely, if ever, are there payments for doing these kinds of projects. But if you have a certain amount of discretionary time, let's say 20% protected time, and you've already committed that, this is going to be coming out of your clinical income. Okay, and then the political cost. Everybody thinks about the political cost of saying no. Oh, you said no to your boss. Oh, he's going to, shoot your cat, something like that. But there's a political cost of saying yes. Again, using the example, if you're in a group of 5 hospitalists that have to cover 24/7, okay, and now you're going to be out of that rotation 30% of the time, 40% of the time, your partners are going to be pretty unhappy with you. They're going to have to pick up that extra work. And then when the project is done, you're going to want to come back and get your fair share again like you had before. But now you don't have colleagues with you. You have competitors. So it can be political costs with either accepting or rejecting. So that's the cost side. Now let's look at some of the benefits. So there's the direct credit. What goes on your CV? What hits one of the points you have to hit on the promotion criteria at your institute? Is the activity or the project going to give you credit in multiple categories? So for example, could you do something that is going to be, say, a publication, also serve an underserved community, and perhaps have some of your trainees involved, so you will be doing some mentoring to it. So from one project, you get points towards promotion in maybe 3 or 4 different categories. Those things definitely exist, and they're very good things to look for. Downstream projects. Okay, you might need advice from somebody more senior in the beginning to realize what the downstream benefits are going to be, but a lot of times that's the reason to take on the project. I'll give you a case in point. I was asked to be on a writing committee for ACC on the clinical use of troponins. This was back when troponins were new. I actually had to use 4 weeks of vacation time to write this and to do it. However, since that point, I published close to a dozen articles on value of troponins and predicting outcomes in non-cardiac diseases. I've done 5 or 6 expert lectures. I've been invited for others. The downstream revenue on that one investment was worth it, even if I hadn't gotten that investment itself. So look for projects like that. Also lectures, if it's a new lecture, are you going to be able to give this lecture in multiple settings? A lot of times you just tweak it a little bit and you can go and give it to students versus residents versus community. The institutional benefit should be pretty obvious. Some of this is also, if it's a pet project of someone who is in a position to do you a lot of benefit, that could be a positive, although that's probably never going to be said explicitly. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. The opportunity for networking. And I don't think we talk enough about networking. Networking is hard, especially if you don't get it out of your institution very much. But even within your own institution, some of these committees or task forces, you get to work with people in other departments or even other colleges within the university. You may find a collaborator for a new research project. You might find someone who has similar interests in pediatrics as you have in internal medicine, and maybe there are papers that can come out of that. The idea, the more people you can meet and get to know, the better your position will be at your institution. If you're looking at projects where you're going outside your institution, nonprofits, national meetings and things, now you're opening up that window very wide. So you have all kinds of opportunities to meet up, network, and potentially get future benefits from meeting new people in the field. Things will build your reputation. For example, one of my areas of interest is in treating cardiac diseases in HIV patients. So some of that is building a local reputation so I can get those patients in to be referred to me. So other, say, primary care doctors who might have these patients say, gee, this is the cardiologist I should go to. And also maybe some expertise on a national level so that you can start getting invitations on that. That is different than a title. We talked about a title last time. It's just as bad here as it was in the last talk. Okay, something they give you to get you to work for free. You don't need those. There are really no financial benefits that ever come out of these directly anymore. Those were the old days. But also personal fulfillment. You know, you might actually enjoy what you're doing. You know, and it perish the thought. But sometimes you do. You find something, and that itself, that fulfillment is enough to justify, let's say, the little bit of income you might lose, or some of the other things you might not be able to do, but you really feel it's important. Finding a new patient population, creating a new curriculum for a certain group of students or residents that's really not being taught well, and you get a lot of gratification at that. That's worth considering. And then a couple of modifying factors. First is opportunity. Okay? Some things don't come along very often. Some things actually only come along once. And opportunity never comes when you're looking for one. Typically shows up when you are least able to accept it. However, a lot of times you got to think about finding a way to accept it, because saying no once might mean it will not come around again. Novelty. How many of us get to a point where you're saying, God, I wish I could do something different. I'm so sick of seeing clinic patients and reading EKGs, and that's all I do. And gee, you know, I'll actually get to talk to intelligent people once a day. That's novel, and that's something you like to do. And also the idea of setting boundaries. Okay? Sometimes, even if it's something you might want to do, you don't want to derail all the career plans you made for a single project, unless you're really at a point where you want to redirect your career completely. So think about how it fits in with all the other things that you're doing, and whether or not you're going to burn bridges in getting back to some of the goals you had previously for your earlier career development. Okay, so I've got 5 more minutes. I put a couple of cases together, junior faculty cases that we could just discuss if you'd like to. Participation would be appreciated. Okay, so this is scenario 1. An assistant professor who's on faculty for 6 months after completing residency is asked to become the medical director of her new rural outreach clinic. She is one of 6 general internists practicing full-time on the site, along with medical and other subspecialists who hold periodic half-day clinics. All residents, medical students, nursing students, and allied health students rotate to this clinic, which is located 45 minutes from the main medical school campus. She holds 6 half-day staff clinics and 2 teaching clinics each week, so that's 8 clinics a week she's already doing, and serves 2 months annually on the inpatient internal medicine service. She hopes to foster primary care education at her institution. So one of her goals is to develop programs, projects, and actually produce competent primary care general internists out of her organization. Okay. So some additional information. She has 0 previous administrative experience. That's true of most young physicians. Very few of us come in with an MBA. She is the youngest member of that clinic faculty. So there are other people that have been there, maybe some for quite a while. She's the new kid on the block, and she's being asked to essentially become their supervisor. She aspires to develop a primary care track for their residency. That's one of her real career goals. Her present contract is 95% of her income being dependent upon her work RVU output. She's also the mother of 2 small children. Her husband is a first-year cardiology fellow, and he wants to be an academic interventionalist. That translates into he's going to be busy for like 4 or 5 years. So the question is, should she accept the position? Okay, we have a heck no. Well, let's look at it. Let's use this return on investment thing. So the costs, she basically loses any discretionary time that she would have had with the administrative load. She's clearly going to lose income. You cannot direct a clinical operation on 5% time. You really can't do it on 20% time. But 5% time is just not going to be there. The political costs, okay? Somebody right out of training is now made my boss. You know, it might not make the senior people feel all that comfortable, or that maybe they were getting slighted. This idea of setting boundaries, nowhere in the first description of what she wanted to do included administrative leadership. She seems to have very firm career education goals. She wants to help train and produce excellent primary care physicians. She didn't mention anything about running a clinical operation and the administration that's involved in that. Also, she likes teaching. Some of those teaching clinics may go also, so she may even have less time to do the things that she really likes to do and wants to do. And it could clearly redirect her whole career away from being an educational administrator and more toward a clinical administrator. On the flip side, obviously this would be a benefit for the institution. They clearly wouldn't be asking for a clinic director to be put in place if they didn't have growth plans and marketing plans for that clinic. It probably is a unique opportunity. Unique is not always a good word. A lot of times it's a bad word, but it is a true word, meaning it's only happening this one time. It is novel, certainly anything. It's very different from anything she had done before. She does please her superior, who's asking her to do that. You can consider that a benefit or a cost at your leisure. Personal satisfaction, maybe somewhere in there, having the clinic work in such a way that it's a superb educational experience for residents or students coming through. Maybe that will be something that she could kind of dovetail off some of her other career goals. So that just gives you an idea. I have more examples, but it just kind of gives you an idea. So the approach here, in here is all career decisions can be broken down, cost and benefit. Everything comes with a cost. There's no free lunch. Almost everything comes with a benefit. A few things that don't. And it's weighing that assessing that value that helps you to decide whether or not you should accept this. Both costs and benefits are situational. They'll differ between individuals, institutions, and at different points in your career. What might not work for you now might be ideal for you 5 years from now. Or perhaps something that is a new offshoot of an area you're already working on now. Once you're more established, you'd never want to waste time going off track like that. And it all starts with having a career plan for yourself, something that you regularly assess and update, and having that framework. So when you come to that fork in the road, you can do the costs and benefits of your choices and figure out which one keeps you on track for the goals that you've set for yourself. I'll take any other questions or comments. So the question is, or the comment is that considering one's choice or opportunity for success in whatever that new project is a major consideration. That's absolutely true. We touched on it a little bit more in the first talk, but we're not all born with the same skill sets. And some people are very political, some people are apolitical, that's me. Some folks are have great organizational skills, some have wonderful interpersonal skills, some are good scientists. If you don't have that skill set, if that combines with a lack of interest, then you're right, they're going to fail. And that's also something you can tell a person trying to get you to do this, saying, if you order me to do it, I'll do it, but I will fail. Just so you know, Jeff. Any other comments? It's my chairman, by the way. Okay, thanks for your attention.